DGC Requiem. We are here with a deck tech. Um, this is black-green Delirium. This is something that I've been working on really for a lot longer than Delirium. So I used to have Mishra's Bauble, and I really just wanted to make humongous goifs. And so I ended up picking up Mishra's Baubles a while back and started to toy with it, and just it was kind of right around the time that Eldrazi hit, and so I kind of never really ended up sticking to it. And the moment that Delirium was spoiled, I was just like, oh my gosh, this goes so great with Tarmogoyf. This is like the best. And just because I don't have time, wasn't able to really do a ton with it. I wanted to make a black or a bug version, excuse me, Sultai version, just because it seemed like a really good way to um, get a lot of cards in the graveyard to turn Delirium out quickly, and I still may try and toy with a bug or Sultai version of Delirium, but what I wanted to do primarily is pair the awesomeness of Bitter Blossom, which is tribal enchantment, which is two graveyard types towards Delirium. I wanted to add Artifact, which initially I was planning to use Mishra's Bauble, though Architects of Will as an artifact creature that cycles for 1 mana at instant speed, and generally speaking can't be countered, um, has caught my eye. And just in general, your instance sorceries. I'm a huge fan of Traverse the Ulvenwald as a kind of tutor thing. One of my other kind of pet projects when I have time, which just means probably never. I really like to do a deck with Traverse the Ulvenwald and potentially Eldritch Evolution to some extent. So kind of like a Delirium value deck where you just have kind of a bunch of good tutors. Not to say that obviously you can't get great tutors with Collected Company or Court of Calling, but it's just something that intrigues me. Hit your mana curve early, etc. Um, and then just I kind of wanted to toy with Grim Flayer a little bit. Not to say that I expected him to be phenomenal or anything, just wanted to toy with it, but also play like a Tarmogoyf deck with Liliana. So I mean, you start to get into this and you look at it and you're like, well, you've got instants, you have sorceries, you have artifacts, creatures, enchantment, tribal, planeswalker. I feel like I'm missing one. But that is 7. That's 7 types, right? Oh, and land. And land. So there's 8 types. I mean, theoretically, you could, in some sort of imaginary nut draw world, which I haven't tried to really do. I feel like this is more of a bug delver thing if I wanted to do that. Or not bug delver, but a bug delirium if I wanted to do this. You could cast the new Emrakul as early as turn 5, or for 5 mana. So maybe you could even do it earlier than that if you had some sort of ramp situation going on. But anyway, so point being is humongous Tarmogoyfs appeal to me. The thing that I found when I was trying to toy with the Bug Delver deck, or Bug Delver, the Bug or Sultai Delirium deck was, first of all, I was trying to do it with Delver, but secondly, I found that it was just too much fluff, and so it doesn't mean that there can't be a way to improve upon that. But what I was finding was, I wanted to run Mishra's Bauble, and I wanted to run Architects of Will in some number. Maybe have 6 total amongst the 3 or the 2 different artifacts. I wanted to run Thought Scour to help feed the graveyard. I wanted to run Gitaxian Probes as a free cantrip again that would get a sorcery in the graveyard. Probably not definitively, but probably wanted to run Bitter Blossom. If nothing else, I definitely wanted to run Traverse. And so just the point was, is I was doing a lot of damage to myself to be trying to play Bitter Blossom, and I was also just running a lot of like fluff that wasn't doing anything. And so as I was thinking about it, I kind of had this thought of, oh, Ghost Quarter. Ghost Quarter would be pretty sweet. Just turning it into more of a grindy deck, but having Ghost Quarter and using Dark Blast with Dredge, oh, what's the other card? Life from the Loam, with Dredge, which I don't actually have in this list because I traded it off online, and I'll probably try and pick it up soon, but I haven't had the chance to pick it up yet. Right now, it would replace probably the Thoughtseize. Um, but basically, my point is that there. If I went to just a straight BG shell, I could play a grindier sort of game, having access to Ghost Quarter, um, and being able to grind people out with that strategy if I needed to go that route. Um, I could be a little uh, biased, but I play against Green Red Tron a lot locally, and so Ghost Quarter, having Surgical Extraction, Whispers of Emrakul, which I just would love to hit it with Delirium, but I'm not sure it's so good in this build because I'm not trying to turbo out Delirium like I would in a Sultai version. But potentially allowing your opponent or having your opponent discard a land, which with Tron you're going to ideally get to Surgical Extract, and so just point being, I thought this would be a good way to kind of attack the meta at large. You get your kind of interaction turn one, or your filtering, if you will. So we're either ideally going to turn one, Thoughtseize or Inquisition, or else we're going to go get a land with Traverse the Uvenvold turn one, and hopefully later run that back for creatures or very specific lands. Architects of Will is going to just cantrip turn one. We have access to a little bit of turn one removal. But then turn two, we're just going to play something powerful, ideally. We're going to play Bitter Blossom. We're going to play a Tarmogoyf and maybe a Grimflayer. Now, Grimflayer is pretty sweet for my limited testing. I mean, he's kind of like a quasi-ponder in terms of getting to look at the top three cards, pick which one you're going to draw. Obviously, you don't draw it immediately, but you get to help turn on your Delirium, help put it out of bolt range. Obviously, Abrupt Decay is going to still be able to get him just like Tarmogoyf and Scavenging Ooze. Obviously, Pathwood as well, but again, he's still big. He fights really well. The trample damage is relevant. And in worst case, you just play another sideways land and maybe have another turn one action, or if you have to, you can try and set up the Abrupt Decay. Whispers of Emrakul, I only have two in there because I really don't right now think that it's, with this deck, something that you can turbo out fast enough. I feel like it really needs to be in more of maybe a Sultai version to increase the likelihood of actually hitting it turn two. You certainly can hit it turn two. It's just not necessarily as frequent in this build as it would be in a Sultai build. But I still just want to toy with it a little bit. And again, this is very early in development, if you will. Dismember is removal, along with obviously Slaughter Pact. Slaughter Pact, obviously not turn one removal, if I mentioned that earlier. Liliana of the Veil gets us a Planeswalker, and she's just really powerful along grindy games. Courser's another one there where you have enchantment creatures, two different types towards your Delirium, but it also helps offset some of the life from something like Bitter Blossom. It's a good blocker, buys you some time. Eternal Witness allows you to rebound a card from your graveyard to your hand. I had a pretty cool sequence against my buddy the other night where he's playing Bogles, and he got through, got my first Liliana killed after I had him sacrifice his first creature that he was kind of building up, and he was able to get a couple more creatures down the next turn, and then kill Liliana that next turn, and then I was able to delay the game long enough with some Abrupt Decays that I eventually was able to Eternal Witness, getting my Liliana back, and then killing his last big creature. Stabilized, took the game over from there. I think that was the first game. Second game, turn 2 Spellskite, because, Hexproof loves that. So, Maelstrom Pulse, just because it's great all-around removal. Kalitas, because Kalitas is good, helps stabilize, especially with Bitter Blossom. I actually think I might want to run 2 Kalitas in my testing so far. Tasigur is kind of interesting. He's an interesting cat, if you will. Pun intended. He first of all, he kind of takes away your Delirium, but then he also feeds your Delirium. So um, I'm not sure I like Tasigur in this deck or not yet. Um, that again, it just kind of it's yet to be seen whether or not I really like him or not. I certainly don't necessarily want to play him super early a lot of times, but at the same token, there are definitely matchups where getting that guy down on the ground as fast as possible is really valuable. So, sideboard, I'm toying with. I've really, really been wanting to do something with Dark Petition, and so this is kind of just, again, more towards that same sort of thing where I'm playing Dark Petition here. I'm hoping to be able to use Dark Petition to get some powerful sideboard cards. Knight of Souls Betrayal, which is great against Infect and Affinity and a bunch of different things. Actually, from my experience so far, pretty good against Dredge as well. Pretty much the only creatures that live through Knight of Souls Betrayal are Prized Amalgam and Golgari Grave Troll, and so usually you can get underneath that if you can slam this down. You can kind of outgrind him. In fact, I've only played against Dredge once, but I outgrinded him pretty well. So I'm interested to see how this works. I know it's kind of costly to some extent. The one thing I really like about this, though, Dark Petition sets up turn 6, Knight of Souls Betrayal, Kalidas, Damnation, or Memoricide. Turn 5, you can get Liliana or Bitter Blossom, Surgical Extraction, and I know some of that sounds whatever, but I mean, sometimes going to be able to get that Surgical Extraction is going to be huge against a combo deck, against Dredge, or against Tron, for example, if you were able to destroy a land or get them to discard it with Whispers. The other thing I really like about it is Dark Petition actually allows me to go get Nihil Spellbomb, Spellskite, or Engineered Explosives. Now, Engineered Explosives, it actually allows me to get Engineered Explosives and crack it at 0 or 1, which I think is pretty valuable. I certainly don't want to be hitting it at 2 very frequently because I'm going to be running most of my powerful threats on 2. And so Dark Petition, when I am able to produce 3 black mana, I can spend 1 mana to put it on 1, or 0 mana and cast it for 0, and then use 2 mana to crack it. Nihil Spellbomb, similarly, I can get it, cast it, crack it, and use the spare mana to draw a card off Nihil Spellbomb, so this is good against Dredge if I'm in a situation where I want to do that. And again, Spellskite if I'm able to delay against Infect or Bogles, and go get a Spellskite. Thragtusk is the other one. Turn 6, I can go get Thragtusk, theoretically with a Dark Petition, so again, just for grindier matchups. Thrun and Creeping Corrosion, they're a little more difficult. They're still turn 6 because I need access to that, to double green when I go to do it. So really, we're actually probably thinking like even later than that, but we'll see how it works out. I'm just interested to test it and see how the whole deck plays out. For the mana, again, we actually only have 1 Hissing Quagmire and 6 fetches. 6 fetches and 4 Ghost Quarters. That's 10 lands that we can get into the graveyard. I actually, in paper right now, I'm testing a second Hissing Quagmire, and I've cut the Polluted Delta. I like that we're able to play a bit more basics here, just with the BG. So we got 6 basics, and Urborg, and a couple Woodland Cemetery, which are check lands. We have quite a few upright lands. So this is the deck. We might play a match or two tonight. It's a little late. I've been working on some stuff in the basement, doing some, I don't want to call it construction work, but I make wine. I don't know if I've ever talked about that, but I make wine, and I was working on a new wine rack. So that's all I got. Hopefully we have some fun with this, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of changes in the days to come, but this is what I've started with in my initial brewing.